Hello, and welcome back to the Tease podcast, where every single week we give you marketing updates around personal branding, your digital business, as well as content creation that converts. Today, we're talking about Pastrygate. If you don't know what it was a little bit of a blowout in the online space, has something to do with pastries and negative reviews. So stay tuned. We can keep you updated on what that was and how to avoid those types of issues in the digital space. We talk about AI and how we're transitioning to a point in time where human error is actually going to be more important in order to create trust and integrity in your brand, and how AI may be inhibiting that. And then we'll close on ways that you can actually leverage and use storytelling in your content creation with some clear-cut tools in order to be able to relate to your ideal client, so that you're not just talking over them, talking to experts and authorities, but you're actually bringing in clients, audience members, and your community that you're trying to build in the online space. I'm Michelle Houston, founder of To Be Honest Beverage Company, as well as marketing and business consultant.
I'm Joanna Newton, co-founder of Millennial Marketer, an agency that helps creators launch their own digital products. Let's dive in.
So today I actually had to get my teeth cleaned before this appointment, because usually I would not schedule something prior to our calls, but I was scheduled for another time, and then the person who does it got sick, unfortunately, and so I had to reschedule, and this is the time that was available. So today I'm only drinking my hydration. This is typically what I have like in the morning times to kind of refuel and rehydrate after a night's sleep. This hydration and glutamine, which is designed to like help your digestive system. So that's what I'm drinking today. It's my pink drink.
Not a cozy bev, but hydrating.
Even though,
Filling.
Yeah, it's actually it started raining yesterday. So it was raining all last night, and
I've heard the perils of people in Southern California when it rains.
Okay.
They can't handle it. They can't handle it.
We got like 2 inches. And yes, thankfully, I'm the kind of person who just like chill. I'm fine. But specifically, I think LA area, especially, people tend to freak out a little bit.
They lose their minds. They can't handle it. I today have a plain green tea. That's been my vibe lately on the podcast. I've been trying to move any heavier caffeinated beverages earlier in the day, to have better sleep and all of that. And we're filming extra late today. So I've got some green tea to sip on while we chat.
Yum. A little classic green tea is good. So what you got in terms of updates, marketing? Anything?
So a lot of interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
Top of mind.
Yeah, top of mind. So I have an odd question. I know I'm like chronically online, Michelle. You're not chronically online, but have you seen anything about Pastrygate?
Pastrygate? Nope. No.
So this has been happening over the past couple of days. There is a food reviewer influencer who posted a pretty negative review of a bakery she went to in Arizona. The influencer's name is Glamora. Her name is Aurora. She's Glamora is I think the pun there. And she posted, I think she's known for posting kind of crass, kind of to the point, like not so great reviews. I think that's what she's known for. Unfortunately, most of her content, like she's taken a lot of her content down because of Pastrygate. So I couldn't like go binge watch and kind of catch her older stuff. So I'm just kind of right now going off of like more hearsay of what happened than the actual account from her perspective. But she posted a negative review of this French pastry shop in Arizona. And it was pretty bad. Like, it was pretty mean. And the brand, the pastry chef, responded, because in the ad, she was kind of saying some negative things, saying they were using fake ingredients, that it wasn't really Italian, the things that were supposed to be Italian weren't Italian, and so on and so forth. And so the pastry chef responded and basically aired out this whole text, like DM thread that they had, where the influencer said, "Hey, will you give me free food for a review?" And she had said no. She was like, no, I'm not going to be giving you free food for a review. And so this pastry chef, owner of the business, got online and started talking about like, this is not true, showed the, direct messages from them, and said that she felt like she was being blackmailed to give like free food for a positive review. And she was like, well, if you want to come review my stuff, you can buy it and go on it. And then was showing how they make some of their stuff, saying these are the ingredients you use. See, they're real. They're not artificial. These are imported from Italy. Here's us making the dough from scratch and all of that. What's really interesting about this is the internet generally sided with the pastry chef, the owner of the bakery, and started really kind of hating on this influencer who has now taken a bunch of content down, made her accounts private, tried to issue an apology, and it just blew up in her face. And it's really interesting because as I was kind of going through, I was like, I kind of see both sides. Like, this influencer has every right to post a negative review. I read some of like the direct messages between them, and I could see how the pastry chef like thought she was being blackmailed, but I don't think it was that clear cut. She wasn't direct. I didn't see how she was directly saying like, "Oh yes, you must. I'll just give you a positive review if you give me the food for free." I think she said, "I just won't post things I didn't like. Like, I'd only post the positive things," right? So it's really interesting to watch unfold and how that has taken over the conversation. And for this pastry chef, she was able to turn a bad review into something positive for her brand, but this influencer turned this negative review into something negative for her brand.
There's a lot of fallout that could happen because of this. Lots of different pieces at play, right? Now, from the influencer and content creator side, what I think is unfortunate is that she used misinformation, and she likely did it very cognitively, and she was aware of what she was saying. Like, to just say, oh, they use fake ingredients without any information or like anything to hold it up. People are privy to what is true and what is false these days. You cannot just get away with saying, oh yeah, I made this. There are people who are ready to call you out in every single instance. Like, I've seen some content that goes viral tearing certain brands apart because of where they're sourcing or how they're creating or whatever, when they're trying to position it differently. Like, if they're, for example, saying like, oh, it's US made and I designed this and da 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 da, but then they're seeing all these dupes come out of China type deal. It's like there's going to be a lack of integrity with the business and the brand. And so I don't think you can get away with just falsifying information. So from a content creator perspective, to give a negative review based on incorrect information. So let's just say she went to the pastry shop. She didn't enjoy what she got. She's actually like chastising them. I didn't have great customer service. I asked to see the ingredient list. They weren't able to provide it. Like, those types of details. That's one thing. Now, the thing from a content creator side is maybe she had a certain vendetta against them because she wasn't given free food. But I think there's a larger discussion here because the expectation has become like, oh, I have a following online. Like, you should cater to me. And I know that obviously everybody's different. Like, I've seen these debates with other content creators who have had a similar experience. Like, they're literally watching someone in a cafe, and this other content creator influencer that they're watching is like, well, I have like 100,000 followers, so my food should be free. And watching this exchange with the manager, and the manager's like, well, that's not how we handle things. If you'd like to be put on our media list, like, we'll get your information. And if we have a specific event, we'll reach out to you and coordinate that. And the influencer's all huffy. And this other influencer who has like literally 2 million followers is like, I come here, I love this place, I pay for my food, and I'm happy to post about it organically, but I would love to also be on your media list. So just the approach and the thought process is so different. So when you have a content creator who is creating negative content in the online space with a vindictive vendetta, there are going to be repercussions, and that's going to affect all the other brand deals that you might have, all the other partnerships. And I mean, it's your personal brand, it's your face. So you should be cognizant of the fact that that tarnishes your ability to show up in other ways and what people actually want from you, which I think is
Yeah.
discouraging. I think it's positive that the business obviously took it, turned it around, shared the information, was like, actually, all of these things are wrong, and took it as a media opportunity to then promote and do something better with the brand and with their business. Now, hopefully they didn't attack this person, but I will say, as kind of a closing note, as someone who has a physical product, we do get pitched or reached out to all the time with different opportunities and events and participation. And can you sponsor this? And you pay for that? And you send product this? And I have pretty much had like good experiences overall, because we tend to treat everyone like in a really positive light. Thank you so much for thinking of us. Like, we're really grateful you love our brand. This is just isn't the right time, if that's the case. But there was one incident where, if the influencer, the content creator, isn't being super specific about what they're expecting or what they're able to provide as a part of it as well, it can be really kind of like muddied. The communication can be really muddied. And then the business doesn't really know what you're looking for or what they want, how to respond. So I think clarity is super important. If you're in the position where you're pitching a brand and looking for an opportunity, also don't assume that other people want what you're creating. And that's okay. And so I think that it just can be a really tough thing to navigate. Like, we still have to think about not only product costs, but shipping and handling, the time it takes to actually get that to the person. And so for your perception, you're like, oh, it's just super easy. Just send me some product and I'll create content around it. But one, it's taxing on the business and the brand. Two, they don't know what they're going to get out of it. Like, if you don't have a clear ROI or value that you're able to provide, I could send out 1,000 bottles and get 0 from it. And so I'm sure that this pastry shop gets pitched consistently, as many locations do. And if they don't see the value in what you're offering, there's no reason for them to say yes,
Yeah, and there's a reality when you're using, like, if you are using imported ingredients, like, that's expensive. Like, your
Yeah.
$5 pastry may have cost $30 in ingredients and labor to make. Like, they might literally not be able to afford to give stuff away for free, and that's their choice as a business. And I think this fallout, really speaks to me of this creator of, like, when you're creating content to chase views over, like, relationship, over engagement, over any of those things, you can really get led astray. Because the truth is, a fun review where you love everything is not gonna get the views of a video where you're trashing things, right? When you're biting into them and making, like, faces and, like, all of that. That is gonna get more views, and I think she's basically built her brand around negatively reviewing businesses. And so, there's a reality that she was going to someday meet someone, and even in her, like, apology video, she said something about, like, someone standing up to her, like, finally, or something like that, and I just feel like at some point, you're going to get a negative reaction like that when you're chasing views over, like, reality of the situation. And that's something I think we all, I think there's a lot of us in this space who are, like, integrity-based and honest-based and aren't gonna just lie or overinflate something to get views. I have very nuanced views. Like, I don't think most things are black and white, right or wrong, yes or no. There's always, like, a spectrum. There's always a discussion. There's always layers to things. Now, would a very, very strong negative statement about something get more views? Yes. But I just think in most cases, that's not the case. So when you're creating content and looking at the data to get views, and then you start to skew all of your content focused on that views, I think it can potentially, like, bite you in the butt, so to say. And I don't know if you've ever watched, like, the crumble cookie reviews, like, online. Like, Crumble Cookie is a pretty popular, like, cookie chain. They have a new menu every single week. Like, that's their thing. And people started doing, like one of the things that helped Crumble get so big was people would do like weekly reviews of their cookies. And it got really popular to hate on their cookies. And so everyone's trying them and talking about how gross all of the cookies are. And like, I'm like, I don't think you really think they're gross. Like, you're doing this to get views. And I think that's just such an interesting place we're out of this world where instead of worrying about making the best content or the most effective or the most informative, we're saying, what can we get people to click on and watch?
Yeah, this is why I struggle with content. It's like, obviously, we talk about content and marketing as a whole, and we're in a place where social media marketing is so much taken over marketing as a whole. It's like, yes, we still have traditional channels, and yes, there are other avenues, but social media marketing is like top, if anything. It's where most of the money is spent. It's where most of the time is invested. It's the thing that is most prevalent, and it's the thing that accesses the most people. Like, in no other channel can you get as many people who are consistently on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis using platforms that are not social media. Like, it is the thing. But with content, you and I struggle with this in such a big way. It's totally true. Those very specific statements, all of those hooks is like, you are doing this wrong. You should never do this again. This isn't working. Like, I don't even know. But all of those really dramatic hooks are the ones that attract the people. And they do, and they get the views. But from an engagement and conversion perspective, like, if someone was a negative reviewer, I would never even want them for my business. Like, they're going to sit down and trash talk a product. Even if from a Crumble perspective, I do know that they would release consistently. And so that's one of their, like, the things that people get invested in, right, is like the next release and the different type of products. Yeah. So if you can have some type of continuity in your brand that keeps people interested over time, it's almost like, episode release or things like that. That can be really powerful. But I don't even know, like, the whole negative thing is really, really hard for me to wrap my mind around. And I get why it works, and I get why people do it. And I respect people in their business to make that choice to do what works for them. But yeah, I think it's just interesting what people decide. Also, if she was a legit content creator and actually cared about this as a business and brand, a lot of times, at least in my perspective, just asking for like free food is not a good option. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to put the time,
Most content creators want to get paid.
Yeah, like, legit content creators are going to proposition you with some sort of investment to create the content, right? Because, I mean, if you're going to a pastry, let's just say you get the most expensive things on the menu. Maybe you drop $20. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're buying what, like a handful of pastries and a coffee? That's like, I mean, obviously, I want to be respectful about where people are at. But for the most part, that's not exactly like an extraordinary cost. Now, if you're going to a hotel and staying for the weekend and you have like $1,200 in hotel stay, and you can do some sort of exchange because you're a content creator and you can create content while you're there of the rooms and the amenities, etc., there's a very different level of exchange that makes sense to ask for complimentary services, right? Or you're working with an airline and you're talking about that airline and you're creating content around that because that's a legitimate investment or purchase. But, from a content creator perspective, most of the ones that I would look to for advice, for mentorship, for coaching, because they actually do this successfully, they're propositioning brands, and typically larger brands, not necessarily a one-off pastry restaurant, in order to have a more long-term strategic deal of content creation. So it makes me wonder, what is her business model? What is her behind the scenes? What's actually happening? Because she could be getting a ton of views on videos, but not be monetizing her business in any way. And talk about this you and I talk about this all the time on the podcast. If you're not yet, click subscribe to the Tease podcast, because we talk about these topics and what's happening in a relevant way via marketing and content creation and business, especially in the digital space, every single week. So hit subscribe. But it makes you question what is the actual business behind the scenes, because views does not a business make. And someone could just have a ton of followers, they could have a lot of views, but they have absolutely no strategy, no plan, no way of actually making money in the business. So I think that's always something to look at. And for someone like her to be in this position, it just makes me question the integrity of her brand and the legitimacy of her business behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I think if your goal is to build a business, right? Not necessarily be monetizing your content, but be building your business, your content strategy is just different. So I think a lot of us, well, not us, not me and you, us, but a lot of people like look at these bigger content creators that get millions of views and have millions of followers and think, oh, I need to use their strategy to get money for my services, but they're monetizing views. They're going in a different direction. There's a child content creator that like blew up in a week. His what's his name? Oh my gosh, my husband and daughter are gonna kill me that I can't think of his name. He's on TikTok and he started reviewing school lunches. I can't think of his name. I'll find it and we'll put it in the show notes. He just started reviewing his school lunches. And in no very no editing. Do you know what I mean? Like these are like someone snuck in a phone and is filming him. He's in like elementary school reviewing school lunches. And in like 7 days he had 500,000 followers.
What?
Right? Like, just crazy. That strategy, right? Like, he's clearly not trying to sell some course or sell one of. He's just like, let's see what happens, and then he'll probably keep reviewing. He started reviewing other types of food. Now, someone might give him free food to review because he got 500,000 followers overnight and is going to be growing, right? Like, maybe that's the case, and he should come up with it. I don't know what his business model is yet. I think he's surprised that he has 500,000 followers on TikTok overnight. But that's like a different strategy to someone like you or I, Michelle, who are selling like our services or products or programs. And so I know sometimes I get caught up with this idea, so I need millions of followers. Like I actually don't. Like my business is profitable. My business makes sales every single month through the content that I'm putting out. And people, when I talk to them to sell my services, mention my content and what they see me doing online affects their buying decisions, right? And that's what our content needs to do, is to make people trust us, have that authority, have that credibility in our space. And if I was doing cheap tricks to get views, that's not going to connect anymore. I see a lot of like agency owners, sometimes they do a lot of content that's funny and gets views, making fun of their clients. Like when a client, like there'll be a graphic designer as an example, and it's like when someone says, "Oh, I just need it to pop more." And like, truth be told, in the design space, that is a joke that your clients will just be like, make it pop more. And that means, oh, I just spilled my tea. That means absolutely nothing. Like, that is not a specific feedback, right? But like, I shouldn't be joking and making fun of my clients for views.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And at the end of the day, it's who are you talking to? Are you talking to other graphic designers who are going to relate to what you're saying because you're selling a course, a program, or services about coaching other graphic designers on how to grow their business and gain more clients? Cool.
Yep, that would make sense.
That would make sense. But
if you're trying to get clients,
that would not make sense. Someone might see that piece of content and think, oh, they're not very receptive to feedback and obviously aren't going to be very communicative. Next. When you are, especially a freelancer or someone who is a service provider, they are a dime a dozen. I not only get pitched, but I've looked for, I've interviewed, I have been in front of video editors, agencies, social media managers, content creators, like the list goes on. And it is challenging to find good ones, but just know that the competition is so incredibly heavy that if you are doing something to dispel or get rid of or in some way offend your prospective clients, they're going to move on to the next person. And I do think it does take that trust and that integrity of the brand for people to be able to invest. One of the things that I wanted to chat about today, not to just pivot entirely because we keep chatting about this, but is I saw a great thing in Masters of Marketing. It's an email that I get. I think it's HubSpot related, that we're talking about AI and where we're headed with AI and how the assumption with AI is that everything is like not fake, but just like too put together, too well done, too perfect. So we're heading into a space where like mistakes are really seen as actually like a positive thing, and that people are more inclined to read, to open, to stop and watch things that have human error, because this idea of like trust and integrity has been corroded. And so with AI, people aren't sure what is fake and what is real. And so the more that you can embed some type of realness into your content, whether that's the copy and having a spelling error, or I've seen actually even people talk about this, is even text on screen having a little bit of an error increases views and engagement. So I think it's an interesting world that we're literally heading into this space where now we're like encouraging people to, make a mistake in the subject line or change out a letter or say something incorrectly. And I've seen it time and time again. And now we're starting to see it because of AI, is that people are going to like latch on to that human error. And whereas before it might have been a situation where you got more engagement, more views because people were like, hey, you're saying that wrong, or you spelled that wrong. And so people naturally want to correct you. But now we're heading into a space where people appreciate it and want to see it because of this difficulty with AI making everything kind of perfect across the board. It's not about not using it, but it's just about like embedding human qualities back into your content, back into your marketing, that people are then going to know, oh, this is humanized. This has emotion. This is connection. This has error. And so people trust that it's actually coming from a person.
Yeah. The evolution of AI, I just think is so interesting, both from like a tech perspective, from a usage perspective, and from a marketing perspective, because not long ago, companies started saying things were like AI or algorithm based AI, all of this stuff as a sales tactic. They would say there was AI learning in a product and that AI was going to help you learn to get people to buy it. And what's really interesting, I mean, I like worked on marketing for some products where the clients kept wanting to put in language saying there was like AI in it. And I'm like, well, is there? And they're like, yeah, it's there. I'm like, can you explain it to me? And like, they were just lying that their product had AI. And now we're in a space where like you're supposed to want to use AI, but you're not supposed to use it for your content. And if you use it in your content, people will think that you're fake. But then if you don't use it, you're not going to be fast enough or affordable. It's like, it's this very weird world that we're living in. And I think the real solution is like, we've talked about this, at length, like not using AI to replace your voice, but like help with efficiencies, help with automations, help with repackaging, repurposing content that you've created and that you put a lot of thought and effort into it. And there's all of that. But it's like so interesting. And I actually I saw like a video of an actress talking about AI because for some reason someone was asking about like AI in the actress world. Did you hear about this like AI actress that's like starting to get hired that's like not even real?
No, I've heard of AI models. So I know that we've
Yeah.
had like AI content creators, and this is, everyone's like, oh my God. But I mean, this has been several years in the making of AI
Yeah.
content creators who have tons of followers who get brand deals. So I know that's been a thing for some time, but I didn't know there was
Yeah.
actually an AI actress.
And now there's this like AI actress. I think her name it's Tilly something.
So,
Anyway, there's this like I don't even don't ask follow-up questions. I I I do not know how it works at all. How would an AI actress interact with non-AI actors? I like have not gotten that deep down the rabbit hole. But this actress was being asked about AI and she was like, what's really interesting is people talk about AI like it's our future. But when you're asking AI to create things, AI is really actually just the collection of our past. Like, because AI is using data points that it has access to create. So if we actually try to rely on AI for the future of innovation, like we're always going to fail. Like human brains are the future of innovation. We might be able to use AI to help with that, but AI is like not the future. It's just a tool. Like, one day we didn't have the internet and you had to do research by like reading the research papers at the library, right?
yeah.
The internet is a tool, AI is a tool. It's not the answer or the future. Like we still have to be that creative pulse and source. And I think that as more and more I'm curious to see if like more and more AI content will be created. And I think that the older generation has a harder time spotting it. So it's like very prevalent on Facebook. If you ever go on Facebook, there is so much AI content like posing as real things. But I think that human element people will really want and want to spot. And I just like that if I make typos, like I can pretend I did it on purpose for engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think keep the typos. I think I saw also like just a funny video from a creator who said something about like the text on screen was something about like when you're texting someone and it just says like it's supposed to say you want to go get lunch, but it hasn't auto corrected, but it's like, funky, I'm gonna like munch or something like that. And they just let other people try to kind of guess what it is as opposed to trying to correct it or deal with it because you just don't have the
Yeah.
time anymore, And I think that's such a real picture of like, that's what humans want. Like humans don't need the perfected version. Humans want like the messy version. It's the story
Yeah.
arc of your hero. You don't want someone who has everything easy. You don't want someone who is just gifted opportunities. You don't want someone who has a perfect relationship. You don't want someone like I've been not really consuming a ton of content, but I have been reading a lot of books, mostly in the romantic comedy section of things. But it's been so interesting to just kind of like read through the story and the drama and then think about like cliffhangers and how they're leaving you wanting more and oh my gosh that just happened and how they're positioning something or how they're seeding information and doing there's a word for it. It's called foreshadowing and like dropping seeds and hints and stuff. And I'm trying to kind of, while also enjoying obviously the reading, trying to think about it in terms of marketing and storytelling and brands and how you engage people and get people to pay attention to what you're doing because that's what's happening through the storyline. You don't want to just keep reading like happy-go-lucky stuff. It's great to have those positive moments, but then there's some type of drama. There's some situation that happens. There's some unexpected plot twist type deal. And in content, I think it's the same way as people are looking for realness. They're looking for stories. They're looking for something to pay attention to. It's why all the negative stuff tends to work better. It's because it's drama. People are obsessed and interested in drama and also gossip. I think from a historical perspective, cultural perspective, human perspective, heritage perspective is that we're still inclined to tell and talk story through hearing about other people, talking about other people, talking about other situations, like we're kind of gossip inclined people. We want the tea. And yeah, it's exciting to see. I'm seeing people. So from a coaches and service providers perspective in the digital space with content marketing, I have seen AI duplicates, right? Like you can create an AI version of yourself in order to create content. Now, I think that there are some interesting benefits to this. So, for example, if I were to create an AI avatar in Descript, and then for my course or program, I put in transcripts of what I wanted to communicate, and then the AI avatar taught it. If it was enough of a like good replication of that content, I could see that as legitimate use of our artificial intelligence use today in order to minimize the amount of time, because I've had to film and refilm and redo, because if you're messing up from a teleprompter perspective, or if you didn't say the right thing, or something was happening, it would cut down on the time intensity that it would take you to create that course or program, technically speaking. But when it comes to your marketing and content creation, I'm seeing these AI models as a representative of these individual coaches and services. And I see the same thing that I do with MLMs, where it just feels inhuman. It feels a little empty. It feels like I'm not connecting with the actual person. And I want to learn from people, coaches and mentors who there's some type of energetic exchange and relationship. And that's just my perspective. Like there are people who are going to buy from AI people. There are people who follow the AI models and content creators.
There are people who have relationships with their AI chatbots. So there's all
There's
types of
all
levels
things
here.
across the board. That's a good point to make. I mean, there are definitely even like, AI relationships online. If someone's having like a chat or conversation experience, like you can have an AI relationship. And I do see the future. I mean, the future of AI, there is theoretically going to be a point in time where it's not just an amalgamation of information from the past anymore, right? There is supposed to be this point of innovation in which it's essentially creating content from scratch and being able to actually do things, especially across industries, maybe not in the content creation marketing industry as much, right? But when I talk to my husband about this, he tells me about what's happening in other fields of science and math and space stuff and etc. So there is potentially that for the future. But when it comes to AI for our particular content creation, I think it's just another case in which we need to decide how we want to engage with it. One of my favorite uses for AI is responding to emails. Just hitting that like write thing. I usually audio voice in what I want to say, or just type in like a quick thing, and then it creates this like nicely perfected email to the person that I'm responding to. It's one of my favorite tools. I've used AI a lot for the content creation or help in supporting the content creation process, but I haven't necessarily seen it create anything with or for me that has helped my content excel. So it's supposed to save time, energy, and it's supposed to help with like your brainstorming and ideation. But as we've talked about as well, there's definitely a side of it that decreases your brain function. So if you're limiting your creativity, your ability to develop new ideas because you're relying so heavily on something like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, or an AI model, then you could be inhibiting your ability to excel over time, which is, I think, a larger issue. And it's something that I have to remind myself of as well, in thinking like, I don't want to give up this skill and ability to actually use my mind to my advantage.
Yeah. Last week, I want to bring up something we talked a little bit about last week and dig into it a little bit more. Michelle, you mentioned that you're seeing this big shift with storytelling content and a big focus on storytelling over like information, educational content in this space. I think one way to set yourself apart from AI is to tell stories. And to tell real authentic stories that are going to like touch people emotionally. And one thing thought we could talk a little bit about today are some like examples of how to do that. Because we can say like, oh, tell stories in your content, but like how you actually do that practically can feel really overwhelming. It's something like I've been told like, oh, tell stories. Like how? Like, what does that mean? And I came across an old Google ad from it was like posted in like the 2010 Super Bowl. So it was like a Super Bowl ad in 2010 that told a story about someone's life, right? Through the lens of what they were Google searching at. So they were showing the different features Google has, from maps to translations to looking up things. So it's showing you all of the features Google had to offer, which was a lot less than it is now, in 2010 than it is now, but just through Google search. So it was literally looked like a screen recording of someone using Google. And it took you through this person's life who went from studying abroad to meeting a girl to getting an engagement ring to having a child. And it was a very simple, technically, it was a very simple ad to execute. It was literally a screen sharing of someone Googling things and a simple music in the background. But the story of following this person through their life gave you the feels, right? It had that emotional reaction because you're watching this person develop. And then in the background, you're seeing all of the features of Google. It was a very clever way to tell a story, but show the features and really, really connect with people. I think it was a really effective ad to show those two things. And I think it's so easy for us to think features first and getting the features out there versus how that product is going to be used to a real person in real time. And so if you want to go watch that ad as an example, it's called The Parisian. If you Google the Parisian Google ad, you'll find it on YouTube. And it's just such a great example of telling a story while still showcasing your product in a really cool way.
Yeah. Emotion, leading with emotion, being able to show rather than tell. Starting in the middle. Having the hook is the crux of content creation, right? It's 95% of your energy should be spent on the hook. That's where people actually start to pay attention to what it is that you're doing. It's the reason that people are going to watch the rest of what you're doing. And then there are other factors at play. But concentrating on whatever is going to captivate the attention as it relates to the person that you're talking to, elicit either some type of humor, emotion, or curiosity, intrigue. And I think show rather than tell. Now, easier said than done, especially if you're again, a coach or a service provider and you don't necessarily think in those terms. Say you're a health coach and you help people with digestive health. You're like, well, wait, how do I do that with digestive health? So thinking of your clients who maybe had a particular experience where they weren't able to enjoy going out with friends anymore because they weren't able to eat the same things because they were suffering from digestive health. So your hook would be something along the lines of, I don't know, not saying the name necessarily, but getting caught or going to a restaurant with friends and struggling to find anything on the menu that works for you. You're nervous or worried about the experience of after the fact, or you get a text message from a friend being like, oh, see you at the pizza parlor at 5. And you start to freak out because you don't know if you can actually do that with people. Not very good, clear-cut examples, but that's kind of the idea, is putting yourself in the experience of the person that you're speaking to and trying to figure out what it is and how it is that you're going to relate to them in a way that helps them see, oh, I see myself in those shoes. Oh, that's exactly what I deal with. Oh, that's I feel that. I feel the nervousness. I feel the excitement. I feel the emotion of whatever that thing is. And I've been I've been trying to really, really let these teachings sink in because I have a tendency to be more functional, more logical, more, oh, if I just say it, then that's what connects. But I just think we're not in that era anymore. So yeah, really, really powerful to be able to figure out what that storytelling looks like, how you connect with the emotion, and how you position things in a way that speak to that person so clearly.
Yeah. And I think another way, I think that's a great example. And I think another way that people can really focus on that storytelling aspect that I think can feel really natural for creators is this idea of just documenting what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you're telling your story. So instead of coming up in a video and saying, here's one way you can sell better online, just talk about a time you helped a client sell better online. If you have a membership where there's conversations and things happening inside that membership, saying, yesterday in my live session in my membership, we talked about this, and someone there had this epiphany, and it was like so amazing to watch that happen for them, right? I'm going to tell you a story about something I did in my membership. So behind the scenes, you're getting, oh, cool, she has a membership and does live sessions where she's talking to people directly. But I didn't say, hey, join my membership where I do live sessions and you can talk to me directly, right? I'm just documenting and sharing what I'm doing on a regular basis. Now, that does require that you actually do what you say you do if you're going to be telling real stories about that. But if you're doing the work, I think a lot of people who struggle to show up online are so busy doing the work that they're not creating the content. So if they just start sharing what they're doing, okay, I did this today, I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. I'm going to talk about what I did and my experiences and just put that out in the world. As long as what you're doing in your day-to-day aligns with your brand and all of that, which it should, then it should actually be easy because you can tell your own stories, your own experiences of the things that you're doing every day.
I think that's the beauty of documentation, and where we're transitioning to is the ease of content creation should be really simple. Is like we're spending so much time in like, oh, how do we make this really powerful, or how do we do this, or how do I approach this new thing, or how do I make it this interesting and like this transition, etc. And it's like, actually, if I just take a step back and actually talk about what I'm doing, that just like, it's such an epiphany that if you can actually just do that, that's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So that's a great reminder for me as well. So as we start to wrap up this conversation, thinking through how you can start to document, tell stories, connect with the emotion, use AI as a tool, but not rely on it for your content strategy. Coming back to the Pastrygate conversation, how can you show up in your personal brand and your business that it reflects the integrity of what you want to bring to the world? You know, maybe staying away from negative reviews, and also like not assuming is like not everyone's going to be in alignment with what it is that you want or are after, and that's okay. You know, any final thoughts, Joanna?
Nothing specific. I just hope that everyone who listened to this episode and got something out of it would subscribe, leave us a review, share this with a friend. We want to help as many creators, as many coaches really put their best foot forward in their marketing.
All right. And you can find in the show notes a link to join our Substack as well. So even though these are more loose conversations each week, you can get some tactical, tangible takeaways delivered right to your inbox that gives you clear-cut steps that you can take from everything that we chatted about. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.